Hey, how's it going, guys? I've got an excellent video for you today. It's all about Amazon PPC ACoS reduction. Really important stuff. Gonna help you spend less for more money. Who doesn't like that? Before you do that though, make sure to go ahead and like and subscribe. That's the lifeblood of any YouTube account. We really appreciate it. Gonna continue to show you guys awesome PPC tips. I promise you those 2 clicks are probably gonna be the most profitable clicks you have on your entire Amazon career. So go ahead and hit those 2 buttons and let's get into it. All right, let's get into it. So the first thing you should do whenever you're trying to lower ACoS, if you haven't done this already, really easy to recommend, but go ahead and modify your automatic targeting campaigns. So this is super easy. If the automatic campaign was created, I think after November of 2019, you have access to these 4 little enhanced automatic targets. They each have their own definition. Amazon classifies them their own certain way, but treat each of these as its own keyword with its own bid. It behaves almost exactly the same way. So right here, we're looking at year-to-date numbers for this one campaign that shall remain nameless. But we've got this. So we've got this one, 26,000 impressions, 17 clicks, 0.06 click-through rate, $27 to spend. And $1.61 CPCs. So we see here we got 3 clicks, $68 of sales. So at 69, it's roughly a $23 product. So at $27, even if we got a sale on the next click, we'd be over 100. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this 20% down to $2. This one has this close match enhanced auto target has a conversion rate roughly half. Just if my little head math is any indication, it's a little bit over half, but still, 60% of what these other 2 are, and the ACoS is really high. So instead of $2.20, I'm going to drop it down 40 cents. I only like to do sort of 20% corrections in either direction because these things don't always behave in a linear way. Cutting your bid in half for these enhanced automatic targets isn't going to double your ACoS and half your spend. It's not the way it works. Imagine it sort of like a bell curve. But in any case, just go ahead and drop that, 20-ish% down to 1.8. This one, we can move back. So I'm going to switch the bids on these 2. And just because this one is performing really well, as far as the conversion rate goes, its CPCs are reasonable. Its ACoS is at 30%. And if we're striving for around a 50% ACoS with this campaign, this 47% gives us just enough room that if we get several more clicks and no sales, it won't get up to like the 80s. If it was at 50%, you want to make sure it's a little bit less than your ACoS threshold, just to give yourself a little room to work with. So the next thing to keep in mind when you're trying to reduce your ACoS or sort of spend a certain amount of money in an intelligent way is think about where you're allocating those funds. So these are old campaigns that stopped in 2018, so you're not seeing any recent numbers. But here we have this one automatic campaign. It's got 10,000 clicks, and it's at a 56% ACoS. This one has $100 of spend as the budget. Roughly a similar amount of clicks, but exactly 3x click-through rate. And the ACoS is, I believe, no, it's not quite, but it's a third. So click-through rate is double, ACoS is a third. So right away, you could just allocate, if this is spending, let's say, $50 a day, this one is spending $50 a day as well. You could leave this open just in case you start getting more traffic. You don't want to hinder yourself with that 50, but you could drop this down to 25, keep your exploration budget, somewhat limited, and then you could just let this run away with more of the spend. Right away, you'll see some immediate ACoS reductions. I wouldn't go ahead. There can be a tendency to, in this situation, if you want to improve your ACoS, you can just go ahead and pause this automatic campaign. But if you do the enhanced automatic targeting stuff like I just talked about and limit your budget, you should see ACoS correct here pretty quickly, especially if you look at, a day-to-day timeline or, anything shorter, you'll be able to see the ACoS number move pretty quickly. The next easiest way to lower your ACoS account-wide, and this is a mistake I see in a lot of campaigns that I look at that I haven't been managing, new accounts, people wanting a hand, is they do a keyword dump. So they use reverse ASIN tool or some other sort of keyword exploration tool. They get everything and they throw it in a campaign. That kind of works, but the problem you run into is that Amazon does their best to group things in an intelligent way, but sometimes they get it wrong through no fault of their own. It's an algorithm. They can't completely control these things. But in this case, duct tape. So this is a poly mailer. So it's a bag, like the bubble wrap bag kind. If you're an Amazon seller, you're probably an Amazon shopper, so you know what a poly bag is. I would imagine that everyone here understands that. But so we're selling poly mailer bags, but somehow in the packing supply niche, we got grouped in this duct tape keyword. So I went ahead and paused this a long time ago, but just for the sake of this exercise, I understand that this poly mailer, has some overlap with tape, but if we're trying to reduce our ACoS, we don't want to spend on things that are not what we're selling. Like the likelihood of someone buying on a tape keyword is going to be low. So because there are other tape products, if they're looking for tape, there's going to be tape on Amazon that's going to fit that need. And so they're not going to, the likelihood of them shopping around is low if they're going to search for something that specific. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up tape and see how we perform. So campaign altogether ACoS is 50%. When I filter by just keywords containing tape, we're at 719% ACoS. So right away, like this package tape, 53 clicks and no sales. We didn't need to spend that $50. That could have been our $50. So what we can do is just select all these and pause them. If you have some sort of formal way of organizing your keywords, and I recommend you do that, I would go ahead and take tape and I would add it to a list of negatives that you're creating to prevent you from bidding on these. We're in an exact match campaign right now, so pausing all the keywords containing tape, so long as we don't add anything in, we won't be bidding on them. But I'm just going to go ahead and in the negative targeting, add negative keywords. I'm just going to do tape as a negative phrase. That way, if we, somebody else, let's say somebody else was also looking at this campaign, I'm handing this work off to someone, and they just go through and they do a big keyword dump. I wouldn't have to worry about them adding in another tape keyword and just running away with that spend. Again, like let's say somebody did packaging tapes or something that wasn't a keyword originally, that could run away with the spend again. So I'm going to add that negative phrase in just to make sure that we don't spend. And then you can take that same list, all the other campaign types. So if you have a poly mailer broad match campaign or phrase match or an automatic or a sponsored brand campaign that has keywords, add that negative phrase to each of those, because that's going to prevent you from spending unnecessarily. Like save that money. You don't need to spend that money. So this one is less specifically looking at the UI, more sort of strategic, but I would go ahead and recommend this specific campaign build was created long enough ago and we didn't have brand registry that we couldn't create sponsored brand ads. But just in general, your sponsored product ads should make up over 50% of your PPC spend on Amazon. I would recommend somewhere in the 70% range. I feel like that makes the most sense. I've seen accounts that are above 80, below 60, but in general, around that 70% range of sponsored product to sponsored brand and sponsored display as your split is probably going to get you the closest to your optimum. If you're optimizing towards ACoS, that's usually how your spend allocation is going to end up. So this is one I see done a lot that you really need to be careful of. Is there are times, like let's say you're running a promo, you want to move a lot of products. You don't have time to go individually just boost all the bids up, or you don't want to worry about that. You don't want to pull the bulk sheet, and you don't want to click all the individual boxes. Make sure everything looks good. So what you do is you just take your one of your placement multipliers and you just crank that all the way up. So in this instance, we have this product page placement multiplier set to 100. We can see that, and also I kind of hate ROAS. I would much prefer everything to be in ACoS. I'm used to ACoS. All my Amazon PPC OGs probably agree with me there. My mind sees ACoS better that way. So I prefer ACoS. Some people like ROAS. Are you an ACoS or a ROAS guy? Go ahead and comment. If you're a ROAS, you're wrong. ACoS is better, but discuss in the comments. But in this situation, we can see that ACoS here, 89%. versus the 35% for the top of first page placement. So I would go ahead, immediately turn this down. Got to make sure it's a number. And then I would just give this a nice little 20%. I feel like just for pretty much all campaigns, sponsored product campaigns, you can just put this top of first page bid adjustment multiplier around 15 to 20%. Found like that is a typical useful blanket, because these almost always versus rest of search were at 35% versus 50. So if we want to move more spend that direction, this is an easy way to do that. But make sure that you don't make any adjustments in sort of a holiday or a sale, or like you're trying to move a bunch of units and forget about it. That happens a lot. And then you can run into situations where you're doing bid adjustments, forgetting that you added this placement multiplier and you're seeing stuff all over the place. You might move something up, not realizing that you're doing a double adjustment and your ACoS goes haywire. So really easy way to spend way too much money forgetting about these high placement multipliers. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the use of overly generic keywords. So once again, let's say you're a typical Amazon seller. You have a lot of stuff going on. You don't want to spend too much time on this Amazon PPC thing, but you want to do it right. So you've watched a video or two, you do a reverse ASIN or some sort of keyword pull, you grab everything, you dump it into a broad match or a phrase match campaign to start generating traffic. So I'm looking at impressions descending. If we look at our initial results, here, tape, one word, that could apply to any sort of tape. That could be duct tape, that could be athlete's tape, that could be electrical tape, none of which are our tape, and we're going to pay the price for it. Specifically, we're losing money. So we're paying more here in our ad spend versus the sales. And there's something to be said about, like, keeping people in your brand, getting new, orders, this, that, and the other thing. But if I recall correctly, this is a 12-pack of tape. So quite a decent amount for a home operation. Once you go beyond that, you might look at Uline or a larger sort of store for those sorts of bulk needs. So the recurring brand stuff is not as relevant. But here, just tape and tapes, we're spending a lot of money for not a lot of results. That's way too generic. And it's getting most of the impressions here. Like, this is 500,000 plus impressions, and we got 30 sales from it. So less than a 10% conversion rate, click-through rate less than half of the average. Like, we can do better than that. So let's look at our ACoS descending. What are our highest return keywords? So Ship Quick, that's a brand, doing really well for us, but tape for sealing boxes, mailing tape, packaging tape. So some of these here, we've got, really low ACoS figures. Mailing tape, we've got 2 conversions on 3 clicks. Our click-through rate is 4x our normal click-through rate, and we're at a 13% ACoS. So if our CPC is at 1.47, our bid is at 1.57. So our observed CPC is really close to our bid amount, which means we have room to grow here. And if we've got 2 conversions on 3 clicks at 13% ACoS, we could just go ahead and pause that old tape keyword and then just bid this up to $2. Right away, we'd start getting more sales at this really high, ACoS figure. And there's some stuff here like moving boxes. Our click-through rate is really low, but our ACoS is decent. You're going to see a couple flukes like that. That are gonna, you might be tempted to bid this up a lot. The product intention and the customer search intent of this does not necessarily match the tape. It's for people looking for moving supplies, so it's close enough. But I would still, if we're going off search intent, I would go ahead and give this a lot more juice. There's no reason why we wouldn't. Our ACoS is plenty low. Same thing here. Our CPC is only 1.12. But I would go ahead and move this, up to 3 or 4 just to make sure that nobody is bidding on that. Like, take care of your brand terms. So that's it. Those are my initial tips for getting your PPC ad spend down, getting that ACoS figure down. It's going to be a really, really easy way to recuperate some profits right away. There's no reason to be spending unnecessarily on Amazon PPC. Those are your profits. You can keep them. I hope that video was helpful. I hope that you were able to get some value out of it. Once again, if you could do us a huge favor and like and subscribe, that'd be amazing. We're putting out a lot of really, really good content to help both people who are looking specifically for PPC help and people who are looking for Amazon help, just in general.
We're a bunch of experts. We know what we're talking about, and we produce good stuff. So please check us out. You won't regret it. Check the link in the bio for a lot of other good downloadable content. These are PDFs, teach you everything you need to know about Amazon. And if you'd rather just have us take care of everything, please feel free to reach out through the sunkenstone.com website. You know, we know how to handle an Amazon PPC account front to back. So you'll be in good hands. And with that, happy optimizing, everyone.